At 2:13 p.m., Heathrow International Airport descended into silent pandemonium. A security officer at passport control crumpled, eyes bloodshot, foam dripping from his lips, as travelers froze in horror. A level 5 biological alert screamed across control room monitors, the source shrouded in mystery. Somewhere in the terminal's pulsing crowd, a virus, X-47, lurked, poised to ignite a global catastrophe. Surveillance cameras panned deliberately, zooming on a lone figure, a woman, her dark skin framed by a black hoodie, standing unnaturally still. No passport, no identity, just a burner phone vibrating with a cryptic summons. Now, Heathrow. Her eyes, sharp and unyielding, cut through the chaos, not seeking escape but hunting purpose. The crowd parted around her, oblivious to her lethal intent. Alarms wailed, yet her pulse remained steady, her mind a steel trap. A valley, hidden among thousands, held the virus, its timer ticking toward apocalypse. She had 47 minutes to find it, or the world would unravel. Who carried it? A child? A businessman? A stranger? The question burned as she slipped forward. A shadow in the storm. Her scar, a faint circle on her hand, itched, a silent signal of her calling. This was no ordinary mission. It was her crucible. The airport would not close, not while she breathed. The terminal's chaos parted like a curtain as she slipped through a security door, her steps silent, deliberate. The sterile corridor beyond pulsed with the weight of secrets, leading her to a soundproof chamber where an MI6 agent stood, his face taut with urgency. "You're late," he snapped, his voice sharp. But her silence was sharper, her presence a quiet storm. He gestured to a screen, its glow revealing a molecular helix, X-47, a virus unlike any other. Engineered not for airborne spread, but for emotional contagion. "It's here, in Avala," he said, his tone low, urgent. "It triggers through fear, anger, despair, cascading through minds like a plague." Her eyes locked onto the data, absorbing every detail. 47 minutes to locate and neutralize the valley. No panic, no trace. Failure would unleash a pandemic no government could contain. The agent slid a microchip across the table, its surface glinting, a neural hacking tool, her only weapon. "No guns, no authority," he warned, his gaze piercing. "You're a ghost." She pocketed the chip, its weight a promise of precision. Her mind raced, mapping Heathrow's labyrinth. 9 cameras, 12 exits, 6,000 souls, one carrying death. The virus's emotional trigger made every passenger a potential detonator, their feelings a fuse. Her scar, an unclosed circle, burned, as if the silent covenant shadow stirred within her. A relic of vow sworn in darkness. The agent's voice softened, a rare crack in his armor. "Why you? No one else moves unseen." She didn't answer, her past, redacted in blood and shadow, had forged her for this moment. The briefing room's walls seemed to close in, the clock a relentless hunter. 47 minutes to stop a plague that fed on human weakness. The valley was small, concealable, carried by an unwitting host who'd passed security. Her device hummed, ready to tap into the terminal's neural scanners, to peel back the masks of travelers. The agent leaned forward, his eyes searching hers. "If you fail, the world learns too late." She nodded once, her face unreadable, her resolve steel. The covenant had trained her to see the unseen, to act where others faltered. X-47 wasn't just a virus, it was a psychological predator, and she was its hunter. She turned to leave, the door hissing shut behind her, sealing the briefing's weight. The terminal's hum swallowed her, her hoodie a cloak of anonymity. Her mind churned, piecing together the mission stakes. Avala, hidden among thousands, its emotional trigger a ticking bomb. The microchip in her pocket was her edge, a key to minds, not locks. She moved toward the control hub, where camera feeds would reveal the first clues. The terminal's pulse synced with her own, a rhythm of hunter and prey. Her scar pulsed, a beacon of purpose, or a warning of traps unseen. The Covenant's shadow lingered, as if this mission was no accident, but a summons to a larger war. She was no spy, she was salvation, cloaked in silence, ready to outwit oblivion. The terminal pulsed with tension, a living maze where every face hid a potential apocalypse. She moved with surgical precision, her hoodie blending into the crowd's restless flow, a shadow among shadows. At a concealed control panel, her fingers danced over a hidden device, its circuit splicing into Heathrow's camera network. 9 feeds flickered to life on her wrist screen, each frame a shard of the X-47 puzzle. The virus's carrier, unaware, carried emotions as volatile as the plague itself, a ticking bomb in human form. Her scar, an unclosed circle, itched as if sensing the Covenant's invisible hand guiding her hunt. 39 minutes remained to find the valley before it unleashed a global catastrophe. She scanned faces, her microchip cross-referencing micro-expressions with passport data. A silent interrogation of the terminal's soul. Most travelers wore masks of fatigue or impatience, their emotions mundane, predictable. But 6 stood apart, their eyes betraying subtle mismatches. A teenage boy, clutching a backpack, darted nervous glances, his sweat a sheen of fear. A pregnant woman, hand resting protectively on her belly, stared blankly, her calm unnervingly hollow. A businessman, a priest, a student, a grandmother, each carried a dissonance, a flicker of intent that didn't align. Her device hummed, activating thermal imaging to measure heart rates, peeling back their facades with cold precision. The boy's pulse spiked, a frantic rhythm betraying panic. The pregnant woman's was eerily steady, a void where fear should have been. Could a child carry X-47, unwittingly spreading death? A mother-to-be, her comma calculated mask? She zoomed in on the boy, catching a bead of sweat tracing his cheek. His eyes wide with unspoken dread. The grandmother's hands trembled, but her gaze held a quiet resolve, a strength that defied her frailty. The businessman's cold stare lingered in her mind. Too controlled, too deliberate. The priest, student, and grandmother faded as secondary, their signals less volatile. Her mind, a steel trap, discarded distractions, narrowing the field to the boy and the pregnant woman. 39 minutes bled away, the clock a relentless hunter. She filtered the data. The carrier had passed security, meaning the valley was small. Concealable, a needle in the terminal's haystack. The pregnant woman shifted, her bag too light, almost performative. The boy's backpack sagged, heavy with possibility, its bulk a silent accusation. She marked them as priorities, her focus laser-sharp, the terminal's chaos a mere backdrop. Her scar pulsed, a reminder of the Covenant's training. See the unseen, act without hesitation. The businessman lingered in her thoughts, his composure a potential feint, but the boy and woman were immediate. A security guard approached, his eyes narrowing with suspicion, his hand resting on his radio. She melted into a cue, her face unreadable, her body language a perfect mimicry of the harried traveler. The guard hesitated, distracted by a shouting passenger. And she slipped away, her steps silent, her mind already plotting the next move. The camera feeds had given her a lead, but the truth lay deeper, in the terminal's neural pulse. The coffee shop ahead beckoned, its bustle a perfect cover for her next gambit. The terminal's rhythm synced with her own, a dance of hunter and prey. The terminal's frenetic hum masked her presence as she slipped into a bustling coffee shop, its air thick with espresso and anxiety. Her target was Heathrow's neural scanning system, a covert network tracking passengers' stress to detect anomalies. To find the X-47 carrier, she needed to hijack it, peeling back the terminal's skin to expose its secrets. At the counter, she ordered a latte, her fingers palming a neural drip, a microscopic device designed to detect serotonin spikes in saliva. With a deft motion, she rigged it into the payment terminal, its circuits humming as each customer's tap fed her data. The teenage boy from her camera scans past, sipping a soda, his sample registered normal, his nervous glance just youth. The pregnant woman ordered tea, her serotonin levels off kilter but inconclusive, her blank stare a puzzle unsolved. 34 minutes remained. Her wrist screen flashed a warning. The system detected her intrusion, its firewalls tightening like a noose. One false move, and alarms would lock the terminal down. She recalibrated the drip, narrowing its focus to emotional volatility, the virus's trigger. A ping, high serotonin from a businessman at gate 17, one of her 6 suspects, his eyes cold, calculated, a mask of control. Was he too perfect, a decoy crafted to mislead? Her scar, an unclosed circle, itched, as if sensing the Covenant's shadow in his gaze. She couldn't afford guesswork. The drip offered one shot to confirm the carrier before the system shut her out. A barista's gaze lingered, suspicion creasing his brow as she loitered by the counter. She flashed a disarming smile, ordering another drink to buy seconds, her mind racing. The drip hummed, sifting through data streams, cross-referencing serotonin spikes with camera feeds. The businessman's profile stood out. His heart rate was steady, but his chemical signature screamed intent. He was boarding a flight, his stride deliberate, a predator among prey. She needed him isolated, his secrets exposed. The terminal's pulse synced with hers, a countdown to catastrophe. Her device warned again. Firewalls closing, seconds from lockdown. She had one chance to lock in his data before the system expelled her. She adjusted the drip's parameters, filtering out noise, her fingers a blur over her wrist screen. The boy's backpack. The pregnant woman's light bag, they faded as distractions. The businessman was the key, or a trap. Her training with the Silent Covenant surged back. Trust the data, not the face. The barista approached, his voice sharp, questioning her presence. She deflected with a casual nod, slipping toward the exit, her hoodie a cloak of anonymity. Gate 17 loomed. A beacon in the terminal's maze. The businessman was there, his cold eyes a riddle she had to solve. Her scar burned, a signal of stakes rising. The neural drip's data confirmed the businessman's anomaly, but the system's defenses were closing in, a digital hunter tracking her breach. 34 minutes to stop a plague, and she was exposed. She moved, her steps a silent rhythm, weaving through travelers toward Gate 17. The terminal's lights flickered, casting long shadows, as if the Covenant watched her every move. The businessman was boarding, his figure a silhouette against the gate's glow. She was a ghost, hunting a ghost, in a game where one misstep meant the world's end. The terminal's pulse thrummed with restless energy, a chaotic symphony she conducted with lethal precision. At a crowded security checkpoint, she glided past a metal detector, her fingers brushing a concealed device that triggered a false alarm. A shrill siren erupted, freezing the line in its tracks. Travelers groaned, their impatience a distraction. As guards swarmed a random bag, their focus diverted. Her eyes locked on the businessman, her prime suspect, now isolated, his cold gaze flickering with unease. She'd severed him from the crowd. His reactions laid bare for her to dissect. 32 minutes remained to unmask the X-47 carrier, and his calculated calm marked him as a threat. Her scar, an unclosed circle, itched, as if sensing the virus's proximity, urging her to act. But a heavy hand clamped her shoulder. "You, move," barked an MI6 officer, his badge gleaming under fluorescent lights, his grip iron. She didn't resist, her pulse steady as he marched her through a steel door into a stark holding cell. The room was a concrete fortress, cameras blinking in corners, the air thick with suspicion. He slammed a file on the table, her blurred image flickering on a monitor. "Tampering with security. Who are you?" His voice was a blade, cutting through the silence. She sat, hands folded, her silence sharper still. 9 minutes remained until the businessman's flight boarded, carrying X-47 to the skies. She leaned forward, her voice low, deliberate. "I'm not your threat. The real one boards in 9 minutes." The officer's eyes narrowed, doubt creasing his brow. Her words were a seed, planted to sprout hesitation. He checked his earpiece. A flight manifest glowing on his screen, confirming a departure imminent. Her warning had pierced his certainty, a crack in his resolve. "Prove it," he growled, stepping closer, his bulk a challenge. She offered no proof, her gaze unyielding, a predator sizing up prey. His radio crackled, confirmation of the flight status. He cursed under his breath, storming out. The door locking with a heavy clang. The cell's walls seemed to tighten, but she was already moving. From her sleeve, she produced an RFID card, lifted from a guard's pocket during the checkpoint chaos, her fingers a ghost's touch. She pressed it to the reader, the lock clicking open with a soft hiss. 7 minutes left. The corridor beyond was a sterile maze, fluorescent lights casting harsh shadows. She sprinted, her hoodie a shroud, toward the business lounge where the businessman had fled. Her mind raced, replaying his face, too composed, too controlled. Was he the carrier, or a decoy in a larger game? The false alarm had bought her time, but the clock was a relentless hunter. The terminal's arteries pulsed around her, travelers oblivious to the plague she chased. Her device pinged, tracking the businessman's location, a private suite in the lounge. Guarded by elite security, she slipped past a cleaning cart, her steps silent, her scar burning with purpose. The lounge's glass doors loomed, a portal to answers or a trap. The businessman was close, his cold eyes a riddle she needed to solve. The terminal's rhythm synced with her own, a countdown to truth or catastrophe. The holding cell's steel door clicked open. The stolen RFID card, a guard's careless loss, her key to freedom. She slipped into the corridor, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, her hoodie a shadow cloaking her intent. The MI6 officer's doubt, sown by her cryptic warning, had bought her seconds, but the clock was merciless. 7 minutes remained to find the X-47 carrier. And the businessman, his cold eyes burned into her memory, was her lead. She sprinted through Heathrow's arteries, weaving past harried travelers, her pulse steady, her scar pulsing like a beacon. The terminal's chaos was a mask, and she wore it expertly, her steps silent, her mission a blade's edge. The business lounge loomed, its glass walls reflecting the frenetic pulse of the elite. She glided through, unnoticed amid champagne flutes and murmured deals. The businessman emerged from a restroom, a speck of blood on his collar catching the light, a fresh wound. Deliberate or careless? Her eyes narrowed, senses honed. She closed the distance, her movements fluid, a predator stalking prey. He sensed her, his stride quickening, but she matched it, threading through the lounge's opulence. At a secluded corner, she brushed his wrist, her fingers grazing a scar, an unclosed circle, mirroring her own. Her breath caught. A covenant mark? Ally or foe? Her device scanned his vitals, heart rate elevated, yet controlled, too precise for the carrier. Her scar burned, as if warning her of a deeper game. The businessman wasn't the threat. His composure was a shield, not a weapon. Her gaze shifted, catching a flight attendant nearby, adjusting her scarf with stiff, mechanical precision. The woman's eyes darted, betraying fear, a crack in her polished facade. A new lead. The businessman slipped into a private suite, his guards closing ranks, rendering him irrelevant. She pivoted, her focus locking onto the attendant, whose nervous glance screamed guilt or coercion. 5 minutes remained. The attendant moved toward a gate, her steps hurried, her scarf slipping to reveal a faint scar on her neck. Another mark? The agent's mind raced, piecing together fragments, the blood speck, the businessman's scar, the attendant's fear. X-47 wasn't in a valley. It was closer, woven into the terminal's pulse. She followed, her steps silent, slipping past a security post unnoticed. The attendant boarded a plane, its jetway a tunnel to answers. The agent trailed her, blending with the crew, her hoodie a shroud of anonymity. The plane's hum enveloped her, a countdown to catastrophe. Her scar tingled, as if activated by the proximity of truth. The businessman had been a decoy, his scar a distraction or a signal. The attendant was the key, her fear a thread to the virus's heart. The agent's device pinged, confirming elevated cortisol in the attendant's profile, fear, not malice. Was she a pawn, like the mother in Istanbul? The memory stung, but she pushed it aside. The jetway's dim light cast long shadows, mirroring her thoughts. 5 minutes to stop a plague, or the world would pay. She stepped onto the plane, her resolve steel, ready to unravel the silent threat. The plane's cabin hummed with oblivious chatter as she slipped into a first-class seat, her hoodie blending with the shadows. Across from her, the flight attendant stowed bags, her hands trembling, eyes darting with caged fear. The protagonist's gaze locked onto her, sharp as a blade, reading the subtle cracks in her facade. No words were needed. This was a duel of silence. Her phone glowed, fingers typing a message that cut through the air. Open the Vala, 137 die. Don't, you live. The attendant froze, her breath catching, her eyes meeting the agent's with a flicker of dread. The air crackled, a battlefield without sound. The attendant's fingers trembled over her phone, typing a reply. No Vala. The agent's eyes narrowed, sensing truth beneath the lie. She slid a photo across, her daughter, smiling at a park, unaware of the chip ticking beneath her mother's skin. The attendant's composure shattered, a tear escaping as she whispered, "They have her." The agent's mind surged, coercion, not betrayal. The flight attendant was a pawn, her daughter the leverage. Her scar, an unclosed circle, burned, as if the silent covenant's shadow loomed over this moment. She scanned the cabin, her device pinging a tampered ventilation panel, its seal fresh, deliberate. The virus wasn't in a Vala, it was in the air system, rigged to disperse at cruising altitude, triggered by the emotional chaos of first-class egos. 3 minutes remained. Her fingers flew over her device, hacking the plane's diagnostics to trace the chip's signal. It was subcutaneous, embedded in the attendant's neck, a faint scar betraying its presence. The device was a leash, controlling her actions, linked to a remote server. Whoever held the strings was close, perhaps aboard, watching. The agent's training kicked in. A steel trap closing around the problem. Neutralizing the chip without alerting the crew was her only path. Her scar pulsed, a reminder of oaths sworn in blood, of missions where failure was a plague's birth. The attendant's eyes pleaded, a mother's desperation raw and exposed. The agent's face remained stone, unyielding, but her mind raced with possibilities. She typed a single command, "Trust me." The attendant nodded, a fragile alliance forged in silence. The plane taxied, its rumble a countdown to catastrophe. The agent's device mapped the chip's frequency, a complex signal bouncing through encrypted relays. Disabling it required precision. A wrong move could trigger the virus early. Her training with the Covenant had prepared her for this. Bypass the system, sever the control. She recalibrated her microchip, preparing a pulse to overload the chip's circuit without harming the attendant. The cabin's lights flickered, passengers oblivious to the war waged in their midst. The confrontation was silent, but its stakes screamed. The virus's emotional trigger meant any panic could unleash it, and the first-class cabin was a powder keg of egos and secrets. The agent's scar ached, as if sensing the Covenant's deeper game. Was this mission a test, a trap, or a prelude? The attendant's daughter was safe for now, but only if she acted flawlessly. Her device hummed. The pulse ready. The plane's ascent steepened, the air growing heavy. She had 3 minutes to free the attendant and stop the virus, or the skies would carry death to the world below. The plane's engines thundered, a relentless pulse as the protagonist's focus sharpened to a razor's edge. The flight attendant, trembling in the first-class cabin, was no mastermind, just a pawn. Her eyes betraying desperation. The agent's phone, still glowing from their silent exchange, held the truth, a chip beneath the woman's skin, controlling her, tied to her daughter's life. The protagonist's device traced the signal, bouncing through encrypted proxies to a source nearby, hidden among the passengers. Someone orchestrated this, pulling strings from the shadows. Her scar, an unclosed circle, burned, as if sensing the Covenant's hand. Time was a blade, slicing down to 3 minutes before the virus's dispersal. She hacked the cabin's LED screens, their flicker masking a micropulse to disrupt the chip's frequency. The attendant gasped, clutching her neck as the device deactivated, her eyes flooding with relief. But the victory was hollow. X-47 was active, seeping through the first-class ventilation system, designed to trigger on emotional spikes. The cabin's elite passengers, their egos a volatile mix, were a perfect catalyst. Panic would ignite the virus, spreading chaos at 30,000 feet. The agent's mind raced, scanning for the source. Her device pinged, locking onto a passenger in 3A, a tech mogul, his briefcase emitting a faint electromagnetic hum. Was he the puppet master? She glided toward him, invisible amid clinking champagne flutes and murmured deals. His 2 guards, ex-military by their stance, flanked him, their eyes scanning the cabin. She couldn't risk a direct approach. Instead, she palmed a neural dampener, a tiny capsule from her kit, and slipped it into his drink as a distracted flight attendant passed. The mogul sipped, his posture slumping, eyes glazing. His guards didn't notice, their attention on a loud CEO nearby. She accessed his briefcase, her fingers deft, expecting the virus's core. Instead, she found a control unit. Its signal tied to the ventilation but not the source, a decoy meticulously crafted. Her scar flared, a warning. The real device was elsewhere, hidden where no passenger could access it. The cargo hold. The ventilation system was a delivery mechanism, rigged to disperse X-47 at cruising altitude, but the canister itself was below, wired to detonate. 1 minute remained. Her device confirmed the hold's coordinates, a fortified crate beyond the galley's service hatch. The mogul was a distraction, his wealth a mask for the true enemy's cunning. Who was pulling the strings? The shadow agent from her past, or another Covenant operative? The plane's hum deepened, a countdown to catastrophe. She sprinted to the galley, her movements a blur, ignoring the curious glances of a crew member. The hatch loomed, a steel barrier to the hold's darkness. Her scar pulsed, as if the Covenant itself watched, its network alive despite her belief in its demise. The flight attendant's freedom was a step, but the virus's heart still beat. She needed to end it before the plane became a flying plague. The galley's lights flickered, casting her shadow long and sharp. She opened the hatch, the air below cold and heavy, her resolve a blade forged in silence. The cargo hold waited. A tomb of secrets or her final stand. The galley hatch slammed shut, plunging her into the cargo hold's oppressive darkness. The plane, now airborne, vibrated with a low hum. Its metal heart indifferent to the catastrophe she raced to avert. Her device glowed, a faint beacon pinpointing the X-47 virus, a reinforced crate, its biometric lock a fortress of steel and code. The tech mobile's briefcase, a clever decoy, had led her here to the true threat. Seconds remained before the virus dispersed, its emotional trigger poised to ignite a global plague. Her scar, an unclosed circle, pulsed, a silent echo of her training in shadows, where impossible locks bowed to her will. She crouched beside the crate, the air thick with the scent of oil and metal. The lock scanner glowed red, demanding a key she didn't possess. She pressed her thumb to the scanner, her scar burning as the system whirred. A click, access granted. The crate hissed open, revealing a canister pulsing with crimson light, its timer ticking down. Her breath caught. Disarming it conventionally was impossible. Time was a noose, tightening with each second. Her training surged back, a mentor's voice, long silenced. Overload the system. Turn its strength against it. She pulled her microchip, its neural hacking capabilities her only weapon. With trembling precision, she spliced it into the plane's electrical grid, rerouting power to the canister. Her device hummed, calculating the surge needed to fry the virus's core without crashing the plane. Sparks erupted as she triggered the pulse. The canister's light flickering, then dying. The timer froze, X-47 neutralized. Her pulse steadied, but victory was fleeting. Footsteps echoed above, sharp and deliberate. She spun, her senses razor-sharp, as a shadow loomed at the hold's edge. Another agent, his silhouette lean and lethal, stepped into the dim light. His wrist bore a scar, identical to hers, an unclosed circle. The Covenant's mark. Her blood ran cold. "You're too late," he hissed, his blade gleaming with silenced menace. She dodged, her body a blur, countering with a nerve strike to his wrist. The blade clattered, and he crumpled, his eyes burning with defiance. "There's another," he spat, voice low, a warning or a taunt. She froze, the words a splinter in her mind. Was she truly alone? The Covenant had trained her to be singular, the last of their kind, or so she believed. The shadow agent's scar suggested a network, hidden, watching. Her device pinged, confirming the canister's deactivation, but his words lingered, a riddle wrapped in threat. She sealed the crate, its weight a reminder of stakes beyond this plane. The hold's darkness seemed to pulse, as if the Covenant's ghosts whispered from its corners. Her scar ached, a map to truths she wasn't ready to face. The plane's hum shifted, signaling descent. She climbed back to the galley, her movements silent, her mind racing. The shadow agent's warning, "There's another," was a key to a larger game, one she'd been drawn into at Heathrow. The virus was stopped, but the mission felt incomplete, a prelude to a war unseen. She slipped into the cabin, her hoodie a shroud, ready to vanish. Berlin loomed, a horizon of answers or betrayal. And she was no longer certain of her solitude. The plane touched down at Heathrow, its engines a fading roar as passengers stirred, oblivious to the abyss they'd skirted. The X-47 virus, neutralized in the cargo hold shadows, left no trace of its near apocalypse. She slipped through the first-class cabin, her hoodie a veil, her presence as intangible as smoke. The flight attendant had vanished into the terminal's chaos, her daughter safe, their survival an unspoken debt to the woman without a name. No one noticed her departure. No one ever did. Her scar, a faint, unclosed circle, itched, a reminder of the shadow agent's words. "There's another." The mission was complete, but its echoes gnawed, a puzzle unfinished. She stepped into the arrivals hall, the terminal's hum a stark contrast to the cargo hold's silence. Travelers surged around her, their lives untouched by the catastrophe she'd averted. A newsstand blared headlines, MI6 credited with foiling an attack, her role erased. It didn't matter. Her kind thrived in obscurity, their victories unwritten. A girl, no older than 6, darted through the crowd, pausing to meet her gaze. Her smile, unguarded and bright, pierced the agent's armor. For a moment, her eyes softened, a crack in the steel forged by years of solitude. She nodded, a silent acknowledgement, then moved on, the girl's warmth a fleeting ember in her cold world. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, not a message but static, a frequency, not random, but deliberate. Her pulse quickened, the first ripple in her calm. The signal was wrong, tied to a past she'd buried. Was it the Covenant, the shadow agent, or something older? Her fingers tightened, but she didn't answer. The terminal's lights flickered, casting long shadows, and she felt eyes, unseen, relentless, tracking her. Another scar-bearer, like the one in the hold? The question burned as she wove through the crowd, her steps deliberate, her face unreadable. The mission's end was no end at all. It was a door to a larger war. Outside, rain slicked the tarmac, mirroring her thoughts. The girl's smile lingered, a whisper of humanity she couldn't afford. The flight attendants escaped, the mother and child saved. These were her atonement for Istanbul's ghosts. Yet they didn't quiet the boy's scream in her dreams. Her scar pulsed, a beacon of battles past and looming. She hailed a cab, its door slamming shut like a verdict. "Where to?" the driver asked, his voice a distant hum. She didn't answer, her destination a void even she couldn't name. The terminal receded, its glow swallowed by London's neon veins. As the cab pulled away, she glanced back. The sense of being watched a prickle on her neck. The static buzzed in her mind, a summons or a trap. The Covenant's shadow loomed, its players hidden but close. She was no pawn. But the board was vast, its edges unseen. Her resolve hardened, a blade tempered by loss. The next mission awaited, its shape unknown but inevitable. London's rain washed her tracks, but not her purpose. She vanished into the city, a ghost ready for the call, her scar a map to truths untold. Rain streaked the cab's windows. London's neon blur a fleeting distraction as her mind slipped back 5 years to Istanbul's blood-soaked night. The consulate siege had trapped 500 souls, their lives hinging on her blade. Her target, the terrorist leader, a zealot holding the detonator. She'd infiltrated the compound, a ghost in the chaos, her silent steps threading through gunfire's din. The mission was clear: eliminate him. Save the hostages. But in the final room, he stood shielded by a mother, her eyes wide with terror, clutching her son. The boy's gaze pierced her, a silent plea. Her handler's voice crackled through her earpiece. "Do it, or they all die." Time froze. Her training demanded action, but her humanity faltered, a fatal second. The mother's whisper, "Save him," shattered her resolve. She struck, her blade swift, the mother's blood warm on her hands. The leader fell, the detonator clattered, and the hostages lived. But the boy's scream, raw and unending, carved a wound no scar could hide. She'd saved 500, yet lost something irreplaceable. The cab's hum pulled her back, her scar burning, etched that night as penance. Istanbul was her crucible, a lesson in sacrifice's cost. Mercy was a luxury, hesitation a death sentence. She'd buried the boy's face, but it haunted her dreams. A ghost she couldn't outrun. Today, at Heathrow, she'd saved a mother and child, a fragile atonement. The flight attendant's daughter, safe, mirrored the boy she couldn't save. The girl's smile in the terminal, a fleeting warmth, challenged her dogma. Perhaps redemption was possible, even for a shadow. Her fingers traced the scar, its incomplete circle a reminder of vows broken and kept. The Covenant had trained her to be steel, but steel could crack. Her phone vibrated, snapping her focus. No message, just a frequency, her handler's old signal, a ghost from a grave she'd seen filled. Her handler, killed in a double cross, had used that code in Istanbul. A trap? A survivor? Her pulse quickened, the first crack in her armor. She crushed the phone, glass biting her palm, her reflection cold in the cab's window. The signal wasn't random. Someone knew her, watched her. The Covenant's shadow loomed, its tendrils reaching from Heathrow to this rain-soaked night. She wasn't alone, but allies could be predators. Istanbul had taught her to trust no one, not even the dead. The cab slowed, London's pulse syncing with hers. The girl's smile lingered, a flicker of light in her darkness. She pushed it aside. Sentiment was a blade turned inward. The signal's mystery gnawed, a thread to Berlin's looming reckoning. Her scar pulsed, a beacon of battles past and future. The Heathrow mission was a prelude, a test orchestrated by unseen hands. She was no pawn, but the board was vast, its players cloaked. The cab stopped. She stepped out, her hoodie a shroud, the city's eyes on her back. Berlin called, a horizon of truth or betrayal. She was ready, forged in blood, tempered by loss. London's rain-slicked streets glistened under sodium lights as she moved, her senses honed to a blade's edge. Each step echoed the pulse of a city unaware of the abyss she'd pulled it back from. Her scar, a faint, incomplete circle, itched, a silent alarm from a past she'd buried. The Heathrow mission was done. But its ripples lingered, questions coiling like smoke. Who had summoned her? Why now? The cab's memory faded, replaced by the present's weight. At a crowded intersection, a man in a trench coat brushed past, his touch deliberate. A cold coin pressed into her palm, its edges sharp. She didn't flinch, her fingers closing around it as he melted into the throng. Her pulse quickened, but her face remained stone, a mask forged in years of shadow. She ducked into a narrow alley, the city's hum fading behind dripping brick walls. Under a flickering street lamp, she opened her hand. The coin gleamed, etched with a circle, unclosed, like her scar. A jolt ran through her, not fear but recognition. The silent covenant, her order, had marked her with that symbol in a life she'd thought extinguished. She believed herself its last survivor, the final ember of a fire snuffed out by betrayal. Yet here was proof. Others endured. Watching, waiting. Her mind raced, dissecting the coin's weight, its texture. It wasn't mere metal. It was a message, a summons from ghosts. She turned it over, spotting a microchip embedded in its rim, nearly invisible. Her device hummed, scanning it. Coordinates flickered on her screen. Berlin, 48 hours from now. A meeting, a trap, or both. The Covenant had trained her to trust no one, not even their own. Her scar burned, a reminder of oaths sworn in blood, of missions that left no trace but scars. She crushed the chip between her fingers, its fragments falling like ash. But the coordinates seared into her memory. Berlin would hold answers, or a blade. She pocketed the coin. Its weight tethered to a past she couldn't outrun. The rain fell harder, drumming a rhythm that matched her thoughts. Heathrow wasn't random. Someone had chosen her, orchestrated her return. The businessman's scar, the attendant's chip, the shadow in the cargo hold, all threads in a web she hadn't seen. The Covenant's survival meant she was never alone. But allies could be as deadly as enemies. Her training surged back, question everything, survive at all costs. She stepped from the alley, the crowd swallowing her, her hoodie a cloak of anonymity. Faces blurred, tourists, workers, spies, but none bore the mark. Yet she felt eyes, a prickle on her neck, as if the city itself watched. Her next move was clear: Berlin. Where the Covenant's shadow loomed. She'd face them on her terms, a predator among predators. The coin was a key. But to what? Redemption? Betrayal? Or a war she'd never escaped? Her resolve hardened. A steel forged in silence. The girl's smile from Heathrow flickered in her mind, a fleeting warmth against the cold. She pushed it aside. Sentiment was a luxury she couldn't afford. The terminal's chaos, the virus's threat, they were preludes to a larger game. She was a pawn no longer. As she vanished into London's veins, the rain washed her tracks, but not her purpose. Berlin was a horizon, a reckoning. The Covenant's mark bound her, but she'd carve her own path through its lies. Her footsteps faded into London's rain-soaked shadows. Each step a silent vow to a world that never knew her name. The airport stood open, its pulse steady, spared from X-47's wrath by her unseen hand. She was no hero carved in stone. No figure lauded in headlines, yet her actions had rewritten fate. The silent Covenant's coin weighed heavy in her pocket, a reminder of a network she'd thought dead, now alive with purpose or peril. Her scar, an unclosed circle, marked her as one who chose the dark to shield the light. The lesson crystallized. Some battles are fought in silence, their warriors erased from history. But their victories echo eternal. The girl's smile at Heathrow lingered, a fleeting warmth in her steel heart. The flight attendant's daughter, safe, was a debt repaid to a past stained by Istanbul's blood. These were her medals, worn in secret, unseen by a world that spun on because of her. The Covenant's return meant she was not alone. But solitude had forged her. Her sacrifices, nameless, relentless, held the line between order and chaos. The rain fell, washing her tracks, but not her resolve. She lived for this, not glory, but the quiet certainty that her shadow preserved countless dawns. You, too, can honor the unseen. Seek the stories buried in silence, the hands that steady a trembling world. Their scars tell truth's no-book records. Follow Silent Missions, where each tale unveils a shadow's triumph over oblivion. Subscribe now. Be the first to witness her next mission, her next sacrifice. The Covenant's call to Berlin looms, a horizon of truth or betrayal. Her path is unending, her will unbreakable. Will you walk with her through the dark?